And we're live, I guess. All right. So,
Heck
welcome
yeah.
to the first episode of Say Again Your Last. I'm Joel and he's Dylan, I guess.
What's
And
up?
um, so, just a little bit about us because you've never seen us on your feed before. You've never even heard of who we are. We're both Marine infantry vets. I did 6 years. You did what? Five, six?
Yeah, five. Yeah.
Okay, five.
Yep.
Um, and we kind of just started this because I started you started posting videos on Facebook, giving like your perspectives on different topics and different things, and like I liked them, I engaged with them, and
Yeah.
you know, you said you were thinking about starting a podcast, and you'd said that before when we were in together, and so
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, why don't I just like hit him up, be like, hey, why don't we start talking about this? Why don't we have the real conversations, stuff like we used to talk about in the bricks and the field and all that shit,
Yeah, man.
and try to have real conversations instead of like there's a lot of these podcasts saturating the market that are like trying to sell you a lifestyle or tell
Right.
you how to fix your life, try to be these like this like
Gurus.
mentor without being a
Yeah.
mentor kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Gurus,
yeah.
And you reached out to me, and I don't know, what was that, like 2 weeks ago now?
Oh, dude, must have been a month ago. This was a while. This is before I even got before I even got this account set up, before we
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
recording
Yeah.
or anything.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but either way, we got it. Well, you did the hard work. I was just texting you, but yeah, man. I mean, just given the perspective of two pretty normal guys, and it's kind of a unique thing where me and you are close friends, but we have two very different lives. You know, you're from New York. Uh, we're both in our mid 20s. I've got a wife and kiddos. I'm living in Middle Tennessee. Like it's just different, and but like you said, we've always had good conversations in the past, and so when we reached out, I knew that this would be a good thing. So it's
Yeah.
the first one right here.
Yeah, so I guess guys just wait for us to get the money going. Wait until the betting companies and the pawn shops start asking us to do advertisements for them. Then we'll sell out, and
Yeah,
then we'll really be like Joe Rogan and all those guys, you know?
yeah, yeah. Then we'll be trying to get you to buy those little pods that people use to check their blood work and all
Yeah,
that good
yeah.
stuff. You know,
All the new vitamin shit that's coming out, everything like
yeah,
that.
supplement stacks.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, man. So what's
All
up,
right.
dude? What you got?
So we did our test recording what a week ago now, I
Yeah,
think, like around the same time, and we towards the end there we really started hitting on a lot of stuff about like um, just like mentorship and how much it's like how much stuff has influenced us and how what we're seeing in guys that either we interact with or people around that are on social media or something that don't have a kind of figure to look up to, I guess.
yeah,
Or I almost want to say father figure ish, but it's any kind of role model, right? Because I know you and me and all you guys watching this or listening or whatever, you you've gotten different kinds of leadership, different kinds of mentorship in different aspects of your life, right? You might have had a father figure, but you've also had those team leaders, those seniors, right? Those, you know, old dudes at the shop you worked at 16 years old or whatever, right? Like any little bit of things that you've learned from.
yeah,
And yeah, I figured since we were talking about that and we were starting to get a little heavy into it before we had to cut it short last time, we might as well like kick this whole thing off with that discussion. So
yeah,
yeah, I
man.
don't know.
One thing I would like to add with that intro on this topic is, um, like today we live in a world where social media and YouTube, podcast, stuff like that. I mean, it's a really big deal, and there's definitely guys out there that are putting good stuff out. But but like a mentorship is a real relationship with a person. You know, now you can read these books. I've read a lot of books. You've read a lot of books, and you can look up to people. But like real mentorship is like a real relationship with someone in your life, and they kind of watch you develop. You know, it's not just somebody that you look up to. It's deeper than that. You know, I think that was I don't think we touched on that last week, but I mentioned that like the mentors that I had in my life, you know, but what that is, being a mentor, it's a relationship with someone, not just somebody that you look up to or even idolize, you know.
Right.
But,
And oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead, man.
Yeah. So I do think that relationship piece of it, like actually having a personal connection to someone, is a huge part of it. I would also like to kind of point out, as far as something that I have experienced, is that mentorship is not always a positive thing. There's not necessarily always a positive relationship, and it does not always necessarily have a positive effect, right? You could definitely argue that it's not actually mentorship, that's just influence in a sense, right? But I know for me, I noticed it a lot as I became more and more of a senior Marine, right? As, you know, coming back from that first deployment, and then just as I learned how to lead, as I learned how to step into the role that my seniors had occupied for me, I started noticing where the influence from different figures was coming from. And yes, there was a lot of that positive influence from guys that I knew were locked in and that I wanted to emulate. But there was also a ton of influence from guys that spent a lot of time, you know, in authority or teaching me that I didn't want to emulate, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not... It was like a weird wake-up call in a sense when I started noticing these aspects of, like, you know, for me specifically, it was like a lazy streak, or certain ways that I would talk or certain attitudes I would have towards, you know, being tasked with different things or being given certain assignments throughout the day, or like training plans, like stuff. I would find myself reacting to them in ways that emulated people that I didn't necessarily think were the best to emulate.
Yeah.
And that came later. That really hit me when I changed units. So I guess for all of you guys, because none of you know, but my original unit was 3-6. I dropped to India Company in March of 2020, and then later on in May of 2022, I got sent over to 2-2 Golf Company, and finished out my career there. Raw. And when I went to 2-2 Golf Company, not only was it such a different vibe and a different style from the way things had gotten in 3-6 India, but it was also where I noticed a lot of my shortcomings as both a man and as a infantryman, right? And the way I was leading, the way I was approaching this newfound, like, seniorhood and this newfound leadership billet. I guess not necessarily newfound billet, but like the environment I was in for that billet was so much more different, and I was like, well, I have to change a lot of things here because I've been emulating these traits without even like consciously knowing it that don't really belong, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of like selfishness and a lot of laziness and a lot of attachment to things outside of the job that were taken away from my capability to lead my dudes and train my guys, right? Especially now that I had moved away from 3-6, and I all of a sudden had an influx of boots to deal with just a couple senior guys. And maybe we'll get to that later in this episode or some other time, but the origin story of that platoon, of Old Golf 3rd Platoon that I ended up in, is pretty crazy, and was really a great wake-up call for me at multiple points in my life. And as I went on through being in that platoon, it was a whole different... I really had to change a lot of what I was doing personally to be a better leader and a better infantryman, and someone that people could count on, and someone that people would like look at and be like, okay, hey, I would be able to or like to follow, you know, Lance Corporal Kingsley at that point, you know?
Yeah. For me, man, my wake-up call was, my first duty station was in Kings Bay, Georgia. And before I even got there, the instructors at my schoolhouse that were previously Security Force Marines, um, most of them like spoke negatively, and and there's good, there's real reasons and not so real reasons of like this the security force talk and stuff like that, but most of them spoke real negatively about you know to me as a young Marine about what we were expecting. And so anyway, I got to Kings Bay, and a lot of my leaders were like that, and a lot of them, and there was a few of them that were great, right? But really, it hit me after I'd been there for, uh, well, I've been standing post for like 2 years. Um, they moved me up to an instructor at the schoolhouse that they have on base, like prior to Marines dropping to their companies. And like that's when it was like really full circle for me, because I was kind of back where I started, right? But this was 2 years down the road as a senior, um, with a real opportunity to like lead young guys. And the first day that I stood there in front of my group of Marines, I think it was like a pretty small group, like 10 Marines. I thought to myself, what 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 was I feeling when I was in their shoes, and what kind of leader can I be to them to prevent them from spending a year or a year and a half maybe not progressing, you know what I mean? Because that was my personal story. uh, and ultimately, man, I realized, like, as a young Marine, all you really want is for somebody to like take you under their wing and say, look, dude, you're going to learn things the hard way. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy days, but you know it sounds a little corny, but I care about your personal development and your growth as a young man and a young Marine. And you know I got your back. You scratch mine, I scratch yours. I'm gonna do my part as a mentor, to help you grow. And so that's when it hit full circle to me. And then it was elevated when I, came to 2-2, because I'd already kind of had that wake up call. Some serious security force Marines don't really have that wake up call until they get to the fleet, and then by then, they've only got a year and a half left on contract. Most of them don't even really care. I'm sure you've, seen a handful of those guys. But yeah, man. But what I was gonna ask to follow up with that, like that, like those experiences, your experience, my experience, how does that, now that we're out of the Marine Corps, how does that impact, the way you carry yourself now that, it's 7 months down the road? Because I found
Um,
myself asking myself that like all the
yeah.
time, really, I mean, it's been I've only been out now for like 6 months, and I still feel like I'm trying to, chase that purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so. That was 100% something I am still dealing with, right? And I found outlets, and I figured out what I think is a path, at least for myself, um, into maintaining that sense of purpose. And right now it is like just kind of one step at a time, right? Just getting all the shit I need together, and then taking the leap on these opportunities that show up. I've been suggested a million different opportunities, million different courses of action, right? Remember I told you that, like, as soon as I got admitted into Ole Miss, I told you, I was like, hey, I'm going to college, dude, right? And that I thought was my sense of purpose, but then I went for like a little visit or something, and And I reflected on that, and I was like, well, no, this is not really me. Like, college is not look like my thing. It's definitely out there for those who want to do it, who think it is, and it's definitely a tool for sure, but it is not the path that I found, so I had to reset. And I think it took a lot of reflection to try and like identify how the negative traits I picked up in the Marine Corps were affecting me, especially the laziness aspect, which is something that I don't think a lot of people talk about, right? Everybody's like, oh, hey, like, you're a Marine, you're going to be a hard worker, right? You're set up for success in the civilian world, whatever. They don't talk about is like, and yes, most of the cases it is just an individual thing, and it's 100% like on me that I developed my own like lazy side and my own unwillingness to like jump up and take action with a lot of things in my life. But it is super easy to fall in that trap when you are a grunt who spends his day to day either doing backyard training or the rest of the time is like spent in your fucking prison cell, your little 4x4. Like, that's an exaggeration, but it's a little 4x4 room with white brick walls. Like, it doesn't mean much, right? Like, it isn't a great spot to be in, and I made the mistake of like spending way too much time in that room and just not doing anything with it. So I think for sure that laziness has translated, and it held me back, especially when I was coming out of the Marine Corps. I was coming off of a bad breakup with a woman that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, right? And all those things together kind of hit me, and I was unable to adapt because of these negative traits I picked up. And just having the wherewithal to kind of reflect, in my shoes, it was simply a matter of being able to start with like forgiving myself for my shortcomings, right? Because I was always kicking myself when I was down. I know a lot of dudes do that. A lot of, especially young junior Marines, right? You're like, oh, I fucked up at prac today. Oh, I got this. I failed this test. Oh, I had to get hazed for this thing. Whatever, right? And a lot of dudes will just start kicking themselves when they're down. But what you really ought to do is you just kind of have to like take a breather and look yourself in the face and be like, all right, like, this is reality. This is manhood. This is how things work. Like, you're going to fail. You're going to fuck up. It's okay. That's part of being a person. It's your first time fucking living, right, dude?
Yeah.
And just I found that as soon as I was able to forgive myself and start sort of a healing process, I was able to strengthen what I was bad at, right? And a little bit of that was happening through my development in the Marine Corps, but it was not at the same level as I found it recently in the past couple of months.
Right.
So, to circle back to what you were saying about someone taking you under the wing and like explaining that to you, one, I don't think that's a mindset that a lot of guys have, because we're all kids in the Marine Corps, right? Like, obviously, like, it's a little different for you. Like, you were married and had 2 children by the time I met you, right? Like, but like for someone like me who had no kids, who joined at 17, my entire adult life has been within those 4 white walls. And if not, I was in the field, or I was living a Marine Corps lifestyle, right? And the mindset that I developed was not like take people under your wing. It was just kind of like, this is the job. This is what we need to do. I need to get these kids ready for that. And I think that's where a lot of my shortcomings as a leader came, was instead of trying to build a sort of personal relationship and being able to pull back when I needed to sometimes, it was kind of more just go, 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 like being that bulldog mentality, which was not helped by the fact that I didn't really move past team leader in my TO billet my entire time in, right? So, and I remember me and you had a conversation a while back where you said that one of the boots did something, and the way you handled it was like from that kind of perspective of like, take him under his wing, figure out what's wrong, and like try and build that personal connection and build the guy up, right?
Right.
And I remember being like kind of pissed off about that because in my experience it was like, oh well, you've got to be like, if a kid fucks up, he fucks up, like you're gonna go grab your flax and take him on a tire run or something, like something stupid, right? Like he's gonna go crawl through the swamp for an hour, right? Like shit like that. And it's not to say I didn't have dudes who did pick me up. Like there absolutely were. There a bunch of guys, right? My senior Albert, great guy. Sergeant Atkins, I will always credit with being one of the biggest successes or biggest reasons for the level of success I had as a team leader in being able to be trusted with that billet because of the chances he gave me, because of the second chance that he handed me when I thought that I was down and out and I wasn't going to develop further. So it definitely has its place, and a lot of dudes get stuck in that mindset of you just always have to be the bulldog. You don't. Yes, the bulldog's always needed, right? Like you have to be driving the guys, you have to be on their ass, right? But there's always a time at any level that you are to just dial it back a little bit, right? And once you're able to dial it back, you can kind of identify weaknesses and problems a lot better, right? And this applies to your own like your inner monologue, and what you're telling people who are within your charge, within your care.
Yeah. Well, like you said, there's a time and place for both, and with whichever one you are as a leader, like there is a really fine line that you gotta walk, because what I found, at least even in my professional career, like now today, like I'm a supervisor at a construction site, right? Like I care about the guys that I'm at the job site with. When I was in the Marine Corps, I cared about my junior Marines. I wanted to create an environment where it was like really a team, and so I never really viewed myself, which obviously, I was in a position of, leadership and authority, and now at work I'm in a position of leadership and authority, but I never really wanted it to be seen like that was all I was, but with that, I mean, what I found that probably held me back in my career was there's a point of being that guy too much, and then the level of respect that they have for you is still there, but the authority figure that they see you as, kind of diminishes, so where it would be like, honestly, I never really seen it in the field, not as much, but, or like when, how's the best way to put it? I never really seen it when it was like high intensity, right? Where it was like, we're at this range and I'm hollering at these guys to do X, Y, Z. Like I never seen it then, but it would be doing backyard stuff or in the office or around, like, low intensity, just needing to get some stuff done. That was kind of the area where, because of the personal development the personal relationships that I had with these guys, it was harder for me to, when I say, hey, we got to do X, Y, Z, then I would get, instead of a hell yeah, let's get it done, it'd be more like a, oh, really, bruh, Yeah. And, in my professional career now, I see that. The guys that I work with, they're great dudes, man. I respect the hell out of them. And none of them speak any English, But I respect the hell out of them. Well, most of them don't speak any English. But but they know that I'm going to look after them. You know, we spend 99% of our conversations using Translate over the phone. And, you know, I tell these guys, like, hey, you help me get this stuff done, I help you guys. I go to the gas station, get you Gatorade. Maybe one day every few weeks, we all go to lunch, whatever. Like, this is, you know, this is a real team effort. Like, that's the way I see it. But then, you know, because we have developed like a friendship, you know, um, there are days, especially like when it's hot like this,
Yeah.
where we got to get this done, and you know, there seems to be some room for negotiation
Right.
instead of getting it done. But you know, so I guess we're coming from two completely different perspectives. Where, you know, I was more of the gentle parent. You know,
Yeah.
I've always been like more of the gentle parent, and there comes, you know, with that comes, you know, other problems, and then, you know, you were more of the ask once, then you get the hand parent,
Yeah.
and
And
so
it
it comes with some negativity on that too, and it's hard because you gotta, like, it's a constant, you know, personal development.
it's a very like push pull kind of situation,
Yeah.
you know, and on one of the I think a lot of it comes from this unfortunate side effect of it being a peacetime Marine Corps, right? And I know like there are guys out there that are going to take issue with that term or whatever, but like we'll call it like it is, right? Like in all the times, in the entire time I was in the Marine Corps, right, there was one unit that went to combat, right, and that was the Kabul pullout, right, and so for the majority of us, most of us veterans coming out of my generation, our generation, is it was a peacetime Marine Corps, and unfortunately, in a peacetime Marine Corps, you have to maintain some kind of hierarchy, right? You have to maintain some kind of trust in the guys teaching you and the guys leading you, right? And so that metric, this idea of the metric having been, oh, these guys deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq or they went to combat, they went to war, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is for the most part, was gone outside of a couple units, right, or a couple dudes who stayed in for a lot longer and we're still at those lower levels with us. But it was few and far between, and so that hierarchy has to come from other things, and one of those things is either you go balls to the wall and kind of in a way like bully your way into it, right, which usually never works, right? It's usually you're just like the asshole, and the guys who try to do that a lot of the time are, you know, not the dudes you want to be taking instruction from, or you have guys who get too soft, like we would call them boot lovers, right? They were the dudes, they would go drink and hang out with the boots, and they also wouldn't give them the proper instruction. So you can lean in one direction slightly one way or another, but there always has to be a fine line of it. There always has to be incorporating both into it to kind of maintain that hierarchy and build the kind of Marines that we need, you know, in the infantry. And even out here, right, like if you're trying to build someone up, like there needs to be a level of this toughness to it, this kind of like, hey, you have to learn from your mistakes, and you know, sometimes it's going to take a little bit of pain or extra work or whatever it translates to out here in the real world, as well as like, hey, I've got your back, like I want to look out for you, and that part I think is also very neglected out here, especially since we're talking about like the way things influence people out here in society, what we've seen, right? This idea of just having the other guy's back is not gone, and it's definitely feels like it's starting to come back a little bit, but it has been unpopularized, right? It has become like a thing of the wayside, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen it, you know, I've seen it in some ways, you know, out here where it's like, well, this guy's doing a really great thing for this guy, and he's helping him out, and he's helping him figure his life out and take care of things, or just like giving him some leeway where he needs it. And then on other things, I can hear him like being like, oh, like bitching about this guy, like, but you're the one giving him this leeway and stuff. Like, why are you bitching about like this? The fact that that is a thing. If you're trying to have his back, like, and I know we all bitch and we all moan about different things, but it's like, well, like if you're gonna be having a guy's back and helping him out and kind of being the guiding hand, then you've got to put 100% into it, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean just be soft on him or just be like, you know, super like nonchalant about anything, but like, you know, you shouldn't. I guess it comes from my perspective, from the Marine Corps, being like, well, if a guy's good at his job, then I don't care about anything else, right?
Yeah.
Like, as long as you can, like, PT your fucking, like, it was like you PT your heart out, you can operate in the field, right? I don't have to worry about you being an idiot, like, all these little things, then I don't care how your camis look. I don't care, like, about this and that. I don't care if you got a haircut this week. Like, you know, letting the things that don't matter. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm trying to say is like,
Yeah.
out here, the things that don't matter are people don't let them slide as much, or they don't let them, you know, fall to the wayside because there's such an emphasis on these things that don't matter, like as far as appearance or
Right.
little tiny shit that is just like, at the end of the day, like, Buddy wrote all his reports and got all his shit into you. Like, what's the issue? Like, he wasn't late. There's no, like, he was fucking 3 days early to the deadline, right? Like, why are we bitching about this guy because, I don't know, he wears his hair long in the office or something, right? Like, that kind of silly shit has always rubbed me the wrong way, and the same way it did when I was in. And
Yeah.
just seeing that kind of is just like, well, that's not the way to approach these things, in my opinion, at least.
Right. Well, you know, I worked at that firearms manufacturing company here in Chattanooga, and so I've had a couple of different, work experiences since I've been out, and that company, which is a great company, the people that worked there, they were awesome people. Like, talk about mentors. The guy that owns it, I mean, incredible dude, right? But their work environment, I would say, is not very efficient because, or their not work environment. I don't know I don't know what word I would tie to that, but it wasn't very efficient because it was too. It was much more emphasis on, like us being a team, which, look, being a team is a good thing, right? But there was more emphasis on, there is no, like, nobody's the boss man, right? Everybody hears everybody's input. Everybody has a say in, what goes on during the workday and stuff like that. And, sometimes you can make that work, but in the real world, not everybody comes from the same background. Like, there are people out there that go to their job every day that don't really care about it. And so, and then you've got, like, the company that I'm at right now, where it's like bosses, laborers, people that decide what work needs to get done, people that gets the work done, right? Mm-hmm. And so for a guy like me that, doesn't really have the bulldog in him that I used to have, it's a hard. I mean, it's hard because, at the old job, I found myself wanting to be more of a bulldog because the efficiency wasn't there, and the level of work that we got done wasn't there, But how do I be a bulldog without being the work asshole, And where I'm at now, it's like, well, how do I be a boss without how do I be a boss and not be as much of a bulldog and try to develop some sort of relationship with these guys that are putting in the hard work? So I've came from two completely different companies with very different like structure or work settings, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but I think really, well, this has been me personally. Like, I'm trying to find that purpose that I have outside of the Marine Corps. Because as much as I loved the Marine Corps, and I really felt like I had a purpose there, I felt closer to my purpose in the Marine Corps than I feel right now, for sure. And so, like, that's what I'm pursuing. If it's in this company, it's in this company. If it's not, then it's not. But ultimately, that's what I'm pursuing. I'm pursuing my purpose. And I'm only 26 years old. Like, I'm trying to figure out who I am as a man, who I am as a leader. And there's tons and tons of different factors that play into that massive equation. But I think, what I'm starting to find out outside of the Marine Corps is in the real world, like you said, it's kind of work isn't always like a team, like you you don't meet up at 7 o'clock in the morning and get your task list for the day and you sit there and talk to each other for an hour and a half about, what you did this weekend, how's life going, how's XYZ, like we did, Here, it's just, you show up and you get stuff done, but I think what I'm finding out is, whatever career path you end up choosing in the real world, if you don't know who you are, or you're still trying to figure that out, like, it's kind of a hard, that's a hard thing to do and do it right all the time at work, and so the days that I'm prioritizing myself, I slack at work. And the days that I'm going hard at work and I'm not prioritizing, the things that I need in my life, then I'm slacking in my life. And I'm hard on myself about both.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a hard thing to figure out, dude. But I think it just comes with, like I said, just figuring out who you are, so. But there are a lot of people that it doesn't really take long for them to give up on one of those.
Yeah.
No.
100%.
And unfortunately, I think most people give up on finding out who they are. And when you do that, like, and I believe, like, you never find a life of meaning,
Right.
Because, like you were talking about earlier, I got your back, you got my back. There are good people out there that want to go to a company and they're like, this is a great company. My boss is a solid guy. These guys that I work with, they're okay. But, like, my boss, man, gave me a good job. He sees my hard work. He gives me a raise, XYZ. And then they get caught up in, like, he's got my back, I got his back. But it's really just what's the word I'm looking for here? It's kind of like does he have your back? What I'm trying to ask is, does your boss have your back if you tell him, like, you need to take a step back and prioritize yourself? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, does he
Yeah.
really have your back, or are you, you mainly have his?
Yeah,
what I'm
right.
saying?
Is it only when it's beneficial for him, and to look at it from the other side, like, is it only when it's beneficial for you, kind of thing?
Right.
Like it's very easy to fall in that trap of. I used to think of it like being a parasite, and I used to always kick myself for it and try and. I would look at things like I was doing that kind of thing when I wasn't, and sometimes I was, but like most of the time, like I'd be looking at it like, oh, I'm just being a parasite to these people, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's easy to fall into that kind of trap of ending up that way, where you are just not leeching off, but like, you're only, being like kind of fair weather. You're only there when it's good for you, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the job that I'm at right now, um, I get paid, I get paid decent money, right? Um, but well, this is a topic for another day. But essentially, like, that's what I'm trying to figure out myself. I'm getting paid good money, right? And it's great, but if my boss is paying me good money to get the work done that I need to get done, right? That's awesome, but that's really just a transaction.
Right.
That's all that really is. That's not and so, am I a bad guy if I leave? I would say no. Am I a good employee if I stay? Absolutely. But so that's just you having to. But I guess what I'm saying is, you know, especially for guys that are getting out of the Marine Corps or getting out of the military in general, uh, they're going to run into that for sure.
Right.
Like they're going to run into their first job or their second job or, like me, their third job out of the Marine Corps, and they're trying to find something that feels similar to what they had, you know, and they're going to have a hard time finding that. Or, some of the guys that get out of the Marine Corps, they're just looking for a job that pays good money, you know. So, I don't know, man. It's just a hard thing. Just a hard
Yeah.
thing.
And
I'm gonna fill this cup up.
yep. So I think like really built to bring us back to like the kind of whole mentorship thing. Like if you're coming out and you're ending up in these positions of authority or control or being charged with other people's uh, well-being or productivity, whatever you want to call it, or maybe just a combination of all those things, like building that personal relationship as the mentor or as the mentee, I guess that's the word for it.
Yeah.
Would is definitely essential to like having that kind of success, especially going into a new field, right? For guys who have spent their entire adult lives in the Marine Corps, like me, like literally since I was 17 to the point until I was 20. I was 23, about to turn 24 when I got out. So that is essential to try and find those personal relationships that can kind of sort of guide you, and also the ones that can make you realize where that kind of purpose lies, right? Like it might be beneficial to you to end up in an environment that's not not you, right?
Yeah.
That's not for you, is not the kind of thing you want to do with your life, and trying to leaving it and getting out and going to do your own thing. It's kind of oh fuck, I just lost my train of thought. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week when we did the test recording about the 40-hour work week, about the idea of staying with the company until you're 60
Yeah.
years old, right? How that's a dead idea, because all these things, because you're not getting the mentorship, because it's not giving you the same kind of purpose, or it's not. This world is requiring more and more every day out of you, personally and professionally, that it's not worth sitting at the same fucking company for
Right.
30 years to just
Yeah.
waste away at, so you can retire and move to Florida, buy a
Yeah.
boat kind of thing, you know.
Well, dude,
No.
you're about to take us down a rabbit hole, man, because dude, I've been actually talking about this with a few of my mentors this past week. You know, I mean, I feel like the days of, I mean, look, dude, you go to school, right? And if you don't go to the military, when you're in school, they tell you, oh yeah, make good grades, go to college, get a degree, put in a good company that's got a 401k, and maybe put, max out your Roth IRA every year, yada yada yada, and by the time you're 65, you can enjoy your life. And you're like, and when I was in high school, I was like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, sign me up somewhere, bro. 30 years, no problem, you know. But you spend your young adult life in the Marine Corps, you know. For both of us, it's a different story, but it's the same. It's the same. Like we have different perspectives, but it's the same. Where it's like, I get out of the Marine Corps. My daughter's almost 4. My son's about to turn 2.
Yeah.
Like huge milestones in their life I missed
Yeah.
from the field, duty, whatever,
Yeah.
And so, like when I decided to get out, I had already made my mind up that I didn't care about any of those things. Like,
Yeah.
like, who really? I might sound like a crazy person here, but who really cares about a credit score, or a retirement plan, or all the things that make sense logically? Who really cares about all that stuff if you're not growing personally, you're not spending time with people that you care about, you're missing things, you're missing out on things with your wife and your kids. And I think this world that we live in now, we have created the problem to where young men, you have an old young man. You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you've got a 26-year-old dude like me who's been, working like a dog to have the things that we have, and it's great. Like I'm super thankful for everything that we have, but I don't get to enjoy it. I don't get to spend time with my wife and kids, with the things that we have. Like, you're not, like I said last week, you're not selling your soul, but essentially, the things that you care about, obviously, by definition, they have a price tag on them.
Right. You're
Yeah.
selling your time.
Right. So it's like, if the list of priorities in my life, the top 5 of those are things that, like, I'm passionate about, that I love and I care about, like wife, family, kids, faith, pursuing a life of purpose for me,
Bow hunting.
bow hunting, yeah. Yeah, like, do you really care about it, or is $25 an hour, good enough to say, it's that's a hard thing to navigate, man.
Right.
Well,
It's
honestly, for me, I've decided it's not a hard thing to navigate,
yeah.
and one way or the other, I'm gonna figure it out.
No, yeah. I'm in that same boat where it's like what does all this material shit really matter if I nothing I do I actually care about? What if nothing I do actually matters to me, right? Like if that's the case, then like not it doesn't mean anything if I have, I don't know, the 30-inch TV or the fucking super nice house or all the pipe dream bullshit that people talk about, right?
Mhm.
Like the credit score, the '67 Mustang, like what the fuck does it matter if it costs me? I mean, like like you said, not necessarily your soul, but your time, right? And
Yeah.
one of my shortcomings for a while was to think that I lived on borrowed time, kind of, right? It was to
Yeah.
think that I wasn't supposed to make it this far, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I am this far, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fucking do shit that, is gonna make the rest of this worse of a time, or take away from things that I love, from people that I love, from all the shit that I want to get done, I want to do. I'm just gonna do it, and I can worry about the money and the credit score and the social credit later. And
Yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, and you can, whatever side of the aisle you find yourself on, there's a good argument to be made.
right.
And there's people, and I've been like this sometimes, where, I want to be able to have a nice house for my family. And when my daughter turns 16, I'd like to get her a nice car, because those are things that I didn't really have.
Right.
But, you know, you never find an old person, you see these videos of people in these old folks' homes, and you say, oh, you're 87 years old. If you could go back and, do two different things or one different thing, what would you do? They always say, I wish I could go back and give more time to my wife, or give more time to my kids, or, I don't know, take that trip to Europe, or whatever it is that you wanted to do. Like, and when you're in high school or college or whatever, you've probably had a teacher or a coach at some point that said, write down 5 things that you want to do in your lifetime. And I had an English teacher that did that. She said, write down 5 things that you want to do in your lifetime. And I think I've only made one of those happen.
Yeah.
That was it, And so did I just, of course, back then I was young.
Yeah.
If I sat down and did it now, the list might be a little bit different. But, at the end of the day, like, when I was a young man, I had dreams, of becoming whatever. And then you get older, you realize that life is a little bit more difficult. Your dreams are not going to come as easily as you thought they would when you were young. But, that's why a lot of people never achieve that. Is because they find out that it actually is difficult. And you've got to make hard decisions to get there. You've got to make sacrifices, and you've got to pick out what's important to you. But some company, holds up a bonus and tells them they'll give them $25 an hour or $30 an hour, and if they stay at the company for 10 years, they get a raise, and they'll make you this guy, and you'll be bossing this, and it's like, I think of it like walking a path in the dark, right? You're on the path by how you're, by I don't know how to say it, by your feet, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can tell if you're on the path, okay? Maybe you've even got a headlamp on, right? Like,
Yeah.
the closer you get to reaching your goals, the path gets a little bit more difficult. Maybe you're going uphill, your headlamp battery's going dead, and there's always somebody off the path that's like flashing a light, or maybe shining a flashlight at you, or something like that, and you look over there and he's like, good money, hot food,
Yeah.
easy lifestyle, you can have a nice house.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn, I'm going uphill right now, and this guy's offering me something nice and comfortable. And I don't know, I think people find themselves at a point on that path where it is much easier to take the bait and than keep going uphill. And I don't know, man. I want to keep going up the hill, you know. I'd like to see the view once I get there. And I will get there, one way or the other.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And I think just to, before we run out of time here, like just to tie this all the way back to the mentorship is like,
Yeah.
you're on that path, right? And sometimes a mentor will help you, or a leader or someone will help pull you along that path, or at least get you started on the path of what you really want. But I think a lot of time is like there's these people that lack a legitimate mentorship, that lack a legitimate leader, or it, like we talked about last week, anything that like for them to like try and emulate or look up to, right? So I kind of want to talk about like what we're seeing now with people in society is like people that I know, people that I kind of tangentially know, people that I've just observed in general is like they go out and they find these things to try and trying to fill that gap, right? And this is something I did for years, even when I was a kid, right? And they try and find like these figures or these things to look up to, and sometimes these can be positive things, right? Which is why before we started recording, I brought up the divergence between me and you, our opinions on whether reading fiction is a good thing or not, right?
Yeah.
And I know you said before that you think it's a waste of time, right? But I personally found that a lot of my positive images of masculinity and leadership came from books that I read that were fictional, right? I will shout from the top of the mountain for the rest of my life that all parents should have their kids read the Redwall series as positive depictions of masculinity and femininity, as it pertains to leaders, to just being good people. And those were the kind of places that I was turning to, right? And that's where I got the positive stuff from, where it's like, oh, I wanted to be like a good leader, and you know, me being a kid aspiring to be a Marine, I want to be a good warrior, like all these characters I read about, right?
Yeah.
And it's easy, especially as you start growing up, as a kid goes through puberty, you get all these emotions and stuff. Fall into the rabbit hole of maybe a darker side of that, where it was like, well, instead of my heroes being like, Martin the Warrior or fucking, Captain America, well, it became like the Punisher and Rorschach and shit. Like,
yeah.
I started confusing these ideas of like, I started confusing like negative things like these different lifestyles as positive examples of what to emulate, right? And that's a whole other discussion to get into of that's a whole other rabbit hole we can discuss another time about positive and negative traits and utilizing them as a man and being a good man, right? But so what I see a lot now is that people will just be like, oh, I want to be like this influencer. I want to be like this character. I want to be like this philosopher that I read, right? And you see it. I see it most with like the gym influencers on TikTok and Instagram and shit, right? They're like, oh, just like always be in the gym, but you should be in the gym. You should be paying attention to your fitness, paying attention to your strength levels and all that shit. But at what point are you selling your soul for vanity or something, or what amounts to just like this kind of emptiness, right? Like this idea of the gym should be a way to deal with your emptiness and your loneliness is not, I don't think, a positive thing, right? The gym and fitness is there to strengthen you, right? It is not there to fix you, right? And so people start following these TikTokers and these guys who are like posting like these edited photos and these videos with the weird music, and they're just like doing their fucking weird shit, or they're watching these videos and these podcasts that are like telling them how to live, telling them how to have a lifestyle, and that to me is the opposite of mentorship. It's someone you have zero connection to. It's someone that you have, you know, you have no idea how their life really is, because all they're posting is this image, this lifestyle, this idea, right? And what it is just like you start idolizing this concept that you really have no clue about, you know.
Yeah.
And I've seen it done where people who post, who like they'll put quotes in their Instagram bio or post like the quote pictures on Facebook and shit, and it's like, well, I know you don't actually believe any of that shit, or if you do think you believe that shit, you're not living up to it, right?
Yeah.
One of the big ones for me that I hate is kaizen. Right? I hate the idea. This idea is, which is not bad philosophy. It's a Japanese concept of utilizing little improvements instead of large leaps to track your progress as your growth as a human being, right? And all the people I see that talk about kaizen are like, well, you jackass clearly don't care about small improvements. You're just looking for the next fix, for the next high, for the next buzz of this, anything that makes you feel special. And that is like the opposite of finding something to emulate, right? That is kind of just self-destruction in a
Yeah.
way. It is you're building expectations that are, I don't want to say unrealistic, but that are just straight up not real, right? Like they're just untrue expectations for yourself and for people around you. And that was a problem I had a lot growing up, was having untrue expectations for myself as a person, for people around me, right? To the point where I looked down at people. Even my own siblings, like if they did something, stepped out of the line a certain way, or did something that went against my concept of what I thought masculinity was supposed to be, or what I thought a good person was supposed to be, right? And it was a big problem that truly didn't clear up until I was in the Marine Corps, and then I had, and maybe it's because I had like instructors and seniors and people to actually look up to that were human and had flaws, but were still trying to do well and do good things, build those relationships, and instill good concepts in me, right? All that just to say, I think in the absence of mentorship, in the absence of leadership, we're watching a lot more people become addicted to this idea of the expectation versus the true path, the actual path that they're on, the actual reality of simply being human, you know,
Yeah.
of the pitfalls and the success that comes with that. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, you get stuck watching these, and dude, I watch podcasts as much as anybody. I try my best. Well, most of the podcasts I watch, are political or history or something like that. But there's a couple of podcasts that I watch, about guys that have made it, and they kind of talk through topics, but they go on these tangents about how all you got to do is this in order to make it. Where it's like, well, some guy like myself, or a young man, he gets on YouTube and he sees this 8-minute clip on how to make it, and just like you're saying, like he watches that 8-minute clip, and some guy, they talk themselves into believing that if I just kind of lock in and do what he's saying on this 8-minute clip, I can have a lifestyle that it took him 30 years to get there.
Yeah.
And like you said, man, like in the absence of real mentorship, you'll get caught in that trap, where you kind of get disconnected from things that are real, in the pursuit of something that you don't even really, like you said, you don't really have an expectation of what it's going to take. Like you watch, you talking about gym influencers and stuff like that. You watch these clips that on social media that are 30 seconds long. and a guy is telling you how to do it, and he's been doing it for 15 years. Like, he won Mr. Olympia in his early 30s, but he's been training since he was 18, you know? And you've got these young men going out to the gym, you know, hard on themselves, trying to fill a gap, like you said, like trying to fill themselves up with something that's not, like they haven't really dissected it into what it actually takes.
Right.
You know.
It's in essence is not real, right? It's gratification a lot of the
Exactly.
time. You know.
Exactly. It's just, you know, it's something that makes you feel better at the time, but when you go lay down in your bed at the end of the night, and there's nobody to talk to but you know, this was on my video that I posted on Facebook last night. Like, you cannot lie. You can lie to anybody else, you know,
Right.
but you can't lie to yourself.
Right.
And if I tell myself that I'm doing my best, or if I say to other people, if I say to my wife or my kids or my Marines or whatever, if I say I'm doing my best, they might believe you and have some sympathy for you. But if you're laying down in your bed at night and you realize and you know in the back of your mind that you're not doing your best, like, it doesn't matter how many people you tell you're doing your best, if you're not, like, you're not gonna have that peace of mind of what your best effort actually looks like. And you won't ever know what that real effort looks like until you've seen it through. You know? You know, and yeah, like having mentors in your life that know you personally, that want to see you see it through, those are the people that you should be. If you've got 45 minutes to watch a podcast, those are the people you need to be talking to on the phone for 45 minutes.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So.
And some of the greatest mentorship can come from people who you don't see as a mentor or see as an authority figure, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's not always going to be your dad, your boss, your old team leader, your old squad leader. It's not always going to be those guys. Sometimes it'll just be your friends that fucking you FaceTime one day and it's like, oh, hey, dude, what's up? How you been? And you just get into a conversation. And I told you about going to Stin's wedding at the end of May. And, you know, that experience, like, just hanging out with those guys and talking to them and actually having these real conversations with people that I knew that I care about, and that I'd spent so much time with and I knew were like me, just trying to struggle their way through this world, right? It's some of the best perspective and mentorship that I've ever received in my life, right? To the point where it's you know, it's a little early to say, but I think it's turned my life around 100%. Just the perspective I gained from it, and I was able to listen to them and get that. So, I mean, never discount like the places you can get beneficial advice and beneficial influence from, you know, right? Like, these people that are trying to sell you a lifestyle, that are selling you a product of gratification or catharsis, so trying to make you feel like you're heard or like you're justified or whatever, which is, and again, this is going to be a topic for another episode, but like that is something that happens in the Marine Corps a lot, especially in the infantry, where you're just like, oh, I'm an 0311, I'm a badass, et cetera, right? Like you get told that all the time, right? And you're forced to develop that kind of attitude a lot of the time, and it's even if it's not true, even if you're not doing everything the way you should be.
Yeah.
But yeah, these people that try and this attitude of just living off the catharsis and the gratification is just not going to, it's not going to carry you across the finish line. And wherever the finish line is, right? You know, I mean, none of us have made it yet. I haven't made it yet for sure. I know you don't think you've made it yet. So it's just try and find those positive influences, that mentorship, that legitimate connection everywhere you can. And again, it comes from the strangest places. I've gotten it from people I've never met in real life. For those of you that don't know, I wrote but kind of write still poetry on a different Instagram page, and the guys have contacted me through that. Like the conversations we've had have been actually incredible, and I've pulled a lot out of it from everyone from like fellow poets to just dudes who liked my stuff, and I started building a connection with. So
Yeah.
it comes from the strangest places sometimes, and you've got to be open to that. And yeah, just let it come, let it happen, even when you're not looking for it, and be able to sit back and cut yourself some slack might be a bad way to phrase it, but like we all know that inner monologue will kill you. It'll push you into inaction. It will push you into failure if you let it, right? Especially when you're struggling. So just be able to forgive yourself the shortcomings and the failures, because they're going to come anyway. They're going to happen at some point along the road. And that forgiveness will help you stand up stronger more than anything, in my opinion.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, dude, before we get out of here, you need to let people know where they can see our videos and our clips.
I gotta do the plug.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still working out all the technical part, but you'll be able to find our clips and posts at sayagain.pod on Instagram. It's all spelled as you would think in proper English, I think. It'll be up on the episode and in the description. We have the YouTube channel, of course, that I'll be uploading to, and I'm gonna see if I can host on Spotify and Apple, what is it called, iTunes, so that guys can listen to this without the video portion necessarily, and just have this playing in their ear when you're at work, you're in the gym, whatever it is you do, that you listen to podcasts. If you want to just throw us in, like, we really appreciate that. And any review, feedback, criticism, if you want to yell at us about how we're idiots, or how I slur my words when I talk, or the fact that you hate that.
Yeah, or how I'm a security force Marine.
Yeah. How I'm a stupid boot who never went to war. And
Did you see the thing that I sent you on Instagram? And
I haven't been on Instagram most of the day.
All right, well.
But yeah, I'm gonna get this up there. So sayagain.pod on Instagram, and then we have the YouTube channel, Say Again Your Last Podcast, and that's where I'll be posting clips and probably a little introduction post so you know who we are. And yeah, you got anything else?
No. Yeah.
Right.
This has been good.
Well, we'll call it there, and I appreciate any of you out there watching this, or wherever you heard it from.
Real quick. I'd like to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Big J's Pawn Shop. Go over there. They buy gold, give you cash. You need a loan, Weed Eater. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. I got my fake Rolex from there, so yeah, go check out Big J's Pawn Shop.
Yeah. All right, bro.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time, guys.
All right, brother. I'll see you, man.
See you.